Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Pete, Films and Stuff. We are back. Special Thursday episode. We couldn't wait until Saturday this time. We had to have a Thursday episode.
That's right.
What is our topic du jour?
Today we are going to be talking very briefly about Apple TV's latest new TV series called Surface.
Not based on a true story, correct? Not based on a true story.
Not based on a true story.
It's a real, we can call this a murder mystery, or we can say attempted murder mystery. Is that right?
I don't even know, actually. I think just a mystery at the moment.
Yeah. So we have no family names, but we have the young couple, Sophie and James, are living the high life in San Francisco.
And let's be clear, the very high life in San Francisco.
The very high life in a San Francisco that's a little bit unrecognizable if you've been to San Francisco recently.
Yeah, it seems very... For some reason, I thought it was the San Francisco of the future. It was a little too clean, a little too quiet.
Very clean, too quiet. Yeah. So Sophie, we learn, has recently survived. She's come out of a coma. She was hospitalized for some time, about 5 months ago.
That's right.
Where apparently she attempted suicide by jumping off a yacht or a ferry, some type of big ship in the San Francisco Bay. Her husband, James, rushed to her side and has been taking care of her. And Sophie has a type of amnesia where she really doesn't remember her prior life, which by all accounts seems to be perfect with this beautiful home and luxury all around her and a very handsome, successful husband. Yet all is not well in that household. So yeah. I guess the point is that she starts to suspect that her husband James may not be the doting, perfect husband that he seems, and she's starting to doubt whether or not she actually committed suicide. And then we go through a few twists and turns, and here we are, still not sure, right?
Yeah, it seems unlike other mysteries of this kind. Things seems to go awry almost immediately. Like something seems suspicious from the outset. And they're all small things. He kind of gives her a weird look when he sees her. He's making her wear clothes that she doesn't want to wear or that she wouldn't naturally wear. Like she selected something for one of the balls that they have to go to for his work event, and he ends up choosing something different for her and kind of forces her to wear it. It's just, I'll tell you what it is. I think I know what it is. I think that the first 3 episodes really are going out of their way to set up James as the guy who potentially either pushed her or is the bad guy.
Yeah. They're really trying to, apart from his handsome face and perfect wardrobe, they're really trying to portray him as somehow sneaky, not transparent, like manipulative, guarding secrets. They raise the issue that there's an embezzlement at the company that he works at. So they really go out of their way to paint him as having a lot of doubt as to whether or not he's a good guy and whether or not he has any motive to try to, kill his wife. They obviously even indicate that he was not where he says he was, the day of the event and so forth.
He's committed adultery, although, we very quickly learn so has she. So it's clearly not the marriage made out in heaven. But the show is going out of its way to vilify him to such an extent that I can't, as someone who's watched so much TV in the past.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel like this is going to, they're trying to set him up as the guy who's going to be the bad guy, but then actually isn't the bad guy, to kind of like the twist is, aha, we fooled you. He was supposed to be
Yeah.
the bad guy, but he was actually the loving, doting husband. And guess who is the real bad guy? And it's maybe the police detective, or maybe it's her best friend. If there's anyone at all, I mean, the ultimate twist would be that actually she did try to kill herself, and that there was no bad guy, and that she was the bad guy because she was cheating on this guy all along. She was being super sloppy about it, and so much so that she was, bringing this guy into their own house while he was gone. I mean,
Boo. I agree with you. I feel like this is, like the traditional like magician or illusionist, where they're trying to, convince you with this misdirection so you don't notice what's going on. And obviously James is really being positioned as the bad guy. I think it's too obvious. I mean, I think there's two things that I take off the table. One, I don't think she tried to kill herself. I mean, otherwise there's really no sense in making this show. Two, I don't think that James is the bad guy as well. Again, I think that's too boring if that's what it's going to be. They don't need 8 episodes of this, to reach that conclusion. I assume that, and I don't think that it's her kind of side piece boyfriend either. I mean, he seems to be okay, and that probably would be a little bit weird to have him involved. I assume someone's going to pop out of a future episode, and it's going to unravel like pretty quickly, and it's something that we haven't even seen coming yet. But I imagine she's got either another enemy, or it's the enemy of her husband. Something's going to kind of spark up, and we'll say, oh, we didn't even know that person existed or was involved, and now that's exactly the motive, and oh, what a surprise to both of them, right?
Yeah, and I can't help but feel like that, he's struggling at work. He's made a few bad investment decisions. I somehow think that's going to tie into all of this. Like, he was coerced. His wife was being blackmailed, or he was being blackmailed about his wife, or something like that. He was coerced into making this. Bad. He was coerced into making this faulty or like this really bad investment. Because he admits to his friend that, I had to make this risky investment, and I couldn't get out of it. And I think that it could end up being somehow connected to his wife, some way, shape, or form. And it's all going to blow up in his face. And I think ultimately he's going to take the fall for something that he didn't do or shouldn't be blamed for.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And I guess I'm a little bit unenthusiastic about this show. Just because, I mean, it's on Apple TV Plus, but there's nothing really that interesting about it, right? We've seen this so many times before. Wealthy couple, someone, I mean, maybe kind of the suicide and the amnesia is a little bit unique, but it's been done before. I'm just not really like biting into this plot or the storyline,
Yeah, you raise a good point. So Apple TV has really made a name for itself with the highest of high quality drama. And everything they've done has either been an interesting twist on a genre we've seen before, a la, For All Mankind with alternate history, or Foundation with sci-fi. There's some kind of unique twist. And of course, this is all backed by the fact that all the shows are very highly produced. And Surface, by all means, is as well, right? Very good production quality, incredible acting. All these guys are very good. But it seems like the most generic show that Apple TV has put out so far. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's very slow. And the dialogue is very like computer generated. There's just no one is funny. No one is really sweet. It really seems to be, you've got the rich, white, young kind of, what is he, a tech executive or an investment executive,
banker,
right? The, young, pretty wife who only is kind of a socialite and volunteers at a hospital, right? Like, then she says, oh, that's all I did was have lunches and shopped and fashion. I was so self-absorbed and shallow back then. It just there's nothing really interesting about the characters or their positions or anything, you know? It would be, there could be so many different takes on this, you know, like have it be like her firm and she was unconscious and now her husband, James, you know, has the, whatever they call it, not the power of attorney, but like the guardianship, and he's taken over. Yeah, the conservatorship, and he had to take over her firm, right? And now he's made all these questionable investments. You know, was he doing the right thing or not? Did the embezzlement come under his watch, or is he trying to cover it up because it was his wife who, you know, embezzled? You could do so many different interesting things if you would, you know, just sling around the characters a little bit. This just seemed to be like the most basic of you know, kind of the background that you could create. So I'm just not really that excited to continue.
I'll tell you, I can show you one scene in my mind right now that would have got at the end of episode 3. If they had done this, I would have immediately said this is a must-watch show. If they had revealed at the end of the 3rd episode that she never lost her memories and she knows exactly what's going on, then all of a sudden I'm in. Then it's a good mystery. You're like, whoa. So she committed suicide or not? She's been gone for the last 5 months, mentally checked out. Yeah. She knows exactly what's going on, but she's playing the long game. Then it kind of makes sense. That's
good. Yeah.
This right now.
That's good.
I don't know. You know, when you talked about the robotic dialogue, you know what this reminds me a little bit of is the dialogue in The Sixth Sense. It's a little stilted, it's a little quiet, it's a little but then you quickly understand by the end of the movie, oh, it's all of this because he was speaking to a dead person. Spoiler alert. But
yeah.
This, you know, it's so far, there's no hook that's grabbing me. Yes, it's a mystery, but and as to what happened to her and what is happening to her, but so what? It's not that big a mystery. It's not that fantastical. It's nothing that's got me super intrigued at the moment.
Yeah. Credit card passwords and, you know, iCloud passwords and email account passwords. And I agree, like, something is definitely being made to be amiss. But again, I think it would be better if either Sophie and her boyfriend were plotting to do this, you know, for some type of, I don't know, issue. It'd be better, like you said, that's a great idea. If she was really faking that she had amnesia and she knew everything the entire time, that would have been great. And the same thing, if it would have been her company and she would have potentially committed suicide, her husband has to take over. And now there's, you know, real questions about, did she steal the money? Did she embezzle the money? She was going to escape with her boyfriend. Did her husband try to kill her? Did her husband embezzle it, you know, while she was, you know, in a coma? Like, those are, I think, better, more dramatic elements. Now I'm just not that interested. I mean, I want to see the end, but I don't think I want to sit through 4 more episodes to get to the end, because I feel very strongly James, her husband, did not do it. I think it's going to be a new character who was introduced, and it probably is either revenge against her boyfriend or even, you know, kind of revenge against her husband. But I don't think that either of those two were directly involved in it.
Yeah. I can't help but feel like it could also be James's best friend at the office. You know, the guy who got him the Lakers tickets. Something about him also seems a little off. Yeah,
you're right. Because he's very involved. He's very involved, like almost too involved for like an office buddy, right?
Yeah.
The friend from work.
It's weird. It's rare that your office buddy is also your best friend out of work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but certainly not this interconnected as he is. Like walking into his house, showing up with Lakers box tickets.
Yeah.
You know, so something tells me there's another twist coming up with that as well. But again, none of these things are crazy, unbelievable twists that we either haven't seen before or, you know, something like that. Nothing is grabbing me. This seems like it could very well be a 90s era movie starring Michael Douglas and Sharon
Single
Stone.
White female. Yeah.
You know, it's very so far run of the mill. And I'm not saying that that's what the show is, but it just seems like it could be. And if that's the case, I mean, okay, that's fine. Apple does need to, have more content, but that's not what I'm expecting out of Apple at the moment.
I feel like Apple is, we may need a separate episode on this. Apple doesn't have a clear strategy. Like at first I thought they were doing like these 5 films with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And then they kind of do like these shows filmed around like Maya Rudolph or like someone else kind of famous, right? Adam Scott. This doesn't really have that headlining character. It's not based on a true story. It's not really a genre where there's like a huge amount of demand. It's not. I'm not sure exactly what box this ticked, or like what the Apple process is for content, and why this ticked that box. It doesn't really seem to fit anywhere. If it was based on a true story, even that doesn't seem to be the Apple genre. That seems to be the HBO genre, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be maybe a Hulu genre. That doesn't seem to be
definitely
the
Hulu.
Apple, right?
It
that doesn't seem to be
like
Apple.
A premium Apple product. Is what I think that's I think you're absolutely right. It's maybe because it's a little generic, maybe because it's a little boring, maybe because it's a little slow paced. Maybe that's why, and maybe it also could just be that Apple is also a victim of its own success in the sense that almost, I don't know what the actual number is, but I would bet that if I looked at their catalog right now, I would say something like 80% plus of their original programming has been a successful show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the benefit of the Apple, the Apple TV Plus kind of brand and the proximity it has, to everybody who's got an Apple device. But I mean, apart from kind of those original Tom Hanks movies, For All Mankind is probably their best show. What's the one with the football coach in the UK?
You've got Ted Lasso. You've got Foundation.
Yeah. We probably
shows
need to give
like
some
Blackbird.
Yeah. Blackbird's based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
We may need to think about this, and we may need to have a separate episode that talks about the Apple TV Plus strategy. But this is not a bad story. I just don't see where it fits, and I don't see where the compelling element is. And again, this is just kind of a little bit slow. It's not really grabbing me. Although, as you mentioned, it's extraordinarily well produced. I think the dialogue is pretty bland. I think it tries to paint San Francisco as a much
nicer,
better city than it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clean. We see Sophie riding the metro to a charity event in a dress and heels.
I do not.
I mean, that has, I feel 0% chance of happening. James, of course, has an electric car. I mean, it's overall, I feel like it's a little bit of a San Francisco propaganda piece more than anything. They show her kind of like running down by the pier, running downtown, kind of the eclectic restaurants and stuff. It seems to be more of a puff piece for San Francisco than a real take on what's happening. In any case, for me, it is a skip. Pete, what about you?
I don't know if it's a skip, only because it's got some talent behind it. It looks like it could potentially have a good twist. I'm going to hold off on the skip at the moment, although I fully understand that if it continues at the same pace that it's going, it's probably a skip for me as well. I'm calling it a mooch. Yeah. I'm calling it a mooch. I think that certainly, at least on Apple TV, there are better alternatives for you to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at other streaming platforms, there are many more shows that you can be watching.
Oh, yeah.
But at the very least, let's call this a mooch from me, a skip from Ethan, and we come back, maybe in 6 weeks from now or whenever it's over.
I think we should do one at the end. And so we've seen 3 of 8. So yeah, let's come back in 5 weeks. Let's do a recap. I mean, I hope I'm pleasantly surprised by a twist or turn that I didn't see coming. And I could see myself updating to a mooch, but I think that's kind of the highest it's going to get from me.
I agree. I think that it would take it would take a twist of biblical proportions for me to go from a mooch to a must subscribe at this moment, because, and that's only because if they leave that twist until too late altogether, all the more reason they should have maybe introduced the twist earlier. But we'll see.
Okay.
Anyway.
Pete, I appreciate your time. That is our breakdown of the first 3 episodes of Surface on Apple TV+.
Thank you, Ethan.
You've got one skip, you've got one mooch, and we'll be back in a few weeks to break down the ending and see if our scores change.
You heard it here first.
All right, everybody. Pete, thank you for your time. Everyone, thank you for your ears and listening. We'll catch you next time.
Reach out to us, aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com, or tweet at us at FNS on Twitter.
Aloha means hello. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Pete.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.